Hello there YouTube, thanks very much for joining me again. I'm Dean the Vaping Biker, and today we're going to have a quick look at the Cortex with the ISub S, all the way from Innokin. Let's go down and check it out. Thank you very much. Okay, so here we are up close with the Cortex. Now I'm probably going to have to change my exposure as this goes on. I just wanted to show you the fact that this is a very shiny box, and as you can imagine, it kind of, you lose it if you put too much exposure on things. So let's have a little look at the box. Cortex TC on the front, temperature control, a vaping system with an ISub S tank. On the side there we've got the more gubbins. Which way around am I having it? That way. You've got your scratch and sniff going on there. You've got a decent amount of information on the back there telling you it goes from 6 to 80 watts. 315 is 6 to 315 centigrade is 600 Fahrenheit, and they're all in 5-degree increments. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of information there for you should you want it. And on the other side, lots of warnings that have to happen for various countries in the world and all that sort of malarkey, so you can have a good old read of those if you so wish. Just give it a little pause. So we'll slip off the outer sleeve, and we've got another silvery box there, and this time it's much simpler on the outsides. Again, more information, very similar to the back of the other casing. And it does tell us that we've got the 5-volt 2-amp fast charging supported wall charger sold separately, which is a shame. That's the only thing that I can really complain about at this point. But let's have a little look, see what we get in the box. So in the box we have a me and you, and a nice little kind of pamphlet telling you how to use the product, which is all fairly straightforward really. Coil must be at room temperature for accurate calibration. Calibrating the device after firing is not advisable, as this may lead to inaccurate readings. The Cortex must not be plugged in while calibrating. Ni200 or titanium. Unplug the Cortex before calibrating. Vape this device at your own risk. It makes it sound very, very dangerous, doesn't it? But you know, normal rules apply. Don't be a knob. Quick operation guide, all that sort of good stuff. Dry hit prevention. There we go. All that. So, moving on from there. Now, in the box, this is where we need to turn the exposure up so we can see what we're doing. Dun dun dun, let's make it too bright so it all goes wrong. Right, let's see how we're at with there. So we've got the ISub S tank here, which we'll go over in a second, and we've got the Cortex itself. Now we'll pop that down to one side for a moment, as we will with the tank. Let's lift this section up. Now we have got a USB here that we can use. We've got another drip tip, which is always useful, and we've got some spares. All these little puppies in here. We've got a couple of coils. This one is the 0.5 BBC 30 watt to 75. I think, is that the Clapton? I think that might be the Clapton one. This one is the 20 to 35 watt 0.5. In here we have the bigger user manual telling you more in-depth information, and there we have some stickers. So let's stick all of that away for a moment. Now then, we're going to look at the tank that comes with this. I'm going to use a different one today because I do have a different tank that I've been trialing out. Still the ISub S, so it's exactly the same thing still. But yeah, I've been using it a lot more, because the problem with these things is you use them and then you sort of burn out a bunch of coils. And I'll probably be giving this away at some point in time. So we've got the drip tip at the top there. That can be exchanged with the one that comes in the pack. The one that comes in the pack, rather than being this, I think that one's Delrin, and it kind of has, it's a little bit textured, so it feels a little bit like a cigarette filter. That's the best way I can suggest from a textural point of view. This does have sort of extra air, so you can lift that up. and you can see underneath the drip tip there that you can introduce air into your vape as well if you so want to. Now, if you watch a lot of my videos, you'll know that I'm not a great fan of extra air at the drip tip, but if you're someone that wants to do that, you can, and it doesn't make it all loose and wobbly. It's still a pretty tight fit in there, but yeah, that's that little hole going on in there that goes all the way through, so you can introduce air to the top if you so wish. Now let's look at the bottom section. If we unscrew this first, you'll see that this, where is it, here, we've got different air modes which work on both sides. And on the top here, you'll see that you've got a little sort of clicky system. So when you're trying to, when you're choosing what you're going with, it kind of holds it where you want it to be, rather than being too aggressive or too soft and wobbly, should I say? So there we go. We've got just those 3 holes open on that side. This side is blocked off altogether. So this is meant to reduce the draw considerably if you so want to. And there we go, it only goes so far. But that's an interesting little idea, and it's nice to have something that doesn't kind of just spin out. If you get the setting that you really enjoy, you don't want one that's going to just spin out and go pear-shaped on you. Now, once you've taken that section off, you've then got this. Now, this is where the coil goes, and the coil just pushes in. So in that case, this one should just pull out like so. And in there, you've got your seals, and you might be able to see, but in there, that section there that I'm kind of pointing to, which isn't brilliant, I'm sure, light-wise, that is one of the seals that you can replace if you need to. Okay, so what you do is you prime your coil. This one in here is the 0.1, 356 to 518 Fahrenheit, NI 200 coil. They do have the what they are on there, which is jolly useful. So you prime your coil, stick it in the jobby. Now you'll see that doesn't fit like that. That's not sitting there, and the reason is, it's fairly self-explanatory, but just in case, you've got these flat sides here, and those flat sides go obviously inside those flat sides. So once you've got that all in, pop that in, everything's nice and snug, fits as it should. Screw the base on, which is also your airflow. Make sure that's nice and snug. That means you'll be able to turn this, and you can hear it clicking, hopefully. So you can hear that click, and make sure it stays in place and goes to how you like it. Now, with regards to filling, it's just a case of, on the top here, you'll see you've got a couple of arrows, which way to fill and which way to vape. So we turn it that way. That opens up a hole on the top and the bottom. So obviously you introduce your e-liquid on one side, and the other side will allow the air to escape. And then you just close it all up again, and everyone's a winner. And that is good to go. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the ISub G tank, keeping it nice and simple. Now, it doesn't break down any further than that, as far as I can tell. Once the coil comes out, the drip tip comes off. Oh no, hang you on. That comes off. Oh, that comes off. It does. So you can replace all of those seals nice and easily should you want to. Now, it doesn't come any further than that. That is maximum. That is maximum taking apartness. But the fact that the tank comes out does help as well. So for cleaning purposes, that should make things nice and easy. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the tank, keeping things nice and simple. Didn't do that the right way around at all, did I? Da -dun -dun, da -da 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 -da. There you go. You got a couple of little locator tabs going on there, which you've got to get in the right place. Go on, you buggers. There we go, they go in, that goes on top of there, screws up, coil goes in, da-dun, dum, and there we go. We are ready to vape another day. So that is the ISub S tank. So that keeps things nice and easy. And like I say, for these, you've got you've got regular Canthar coils, you've got nickel coils, and you've got titanium coils. Now, if I was prepared, I would have these out to show you, but let me grab a couple of these. So the BVC coils, the Clapton jobbies, so on, come in the black packaging. The nickel 200s come in the red packaging, and the titanium ones come in the yellow packaging. They really look like they could be packets of condoms, don't they? But that's that. So it helps keep things all nice and squared away. Obviously, not super helpful if you're colourblind, but at the same time, having the words written on them probably will help you above that one. So let's get those out of the way. Now let's have a little look at the Cortex itself. This is the Cortex mod, and first things first is the finish. It's a funny bloody finish. The best thing I can suggest is that it feels... I painted my Capri matte black, or I had it painted matte black, and it was done with spray cans pretty much, and felt rough as piss, and it felt really on your fingertips. It felt kind of weird and chalkboardy. This felt truly horrific when it first came through the post. I've got to tell you, I can't lie, it just felt really kind of like a matte finish, but it was like a chalkboard that kind of put your teeth on edge. Now, I've been using this for a good couple of weeks, if not longer, and this finish has smoothed right out. It really has. It's still a little bit of a thing for marks. You can get marks kind of all over it like so, and it'll rub against things. So if it rubs against the tank, for instance, you'll get marks on it, and all that, but it generally will wipe off again once you've used it. So this kind of finish tends to look after itself, which is pretty impressive. But it just feels weird to start with. It does feel strange. On the top there, we've got a little bit of juice, which I should have cleaned off, but I didn't. Like I said, since I've been using this, it has meant that the feel of the mod has changed. So it does feel a little bit nicer than it did when I very first got it. Now, regarding this 510, it is fairly tight. There is a small amount of movement in there, but nothing to get excited about. This has meant that some RDAs have sat slightly proud. So if I, for instance, just pop a support on, just unscrew that from there, there's a slight protrusion of the 510 on there, but if I screw that in there, that is getting that snug there, and you can see that there is a gap. Now, I think that this is a conscious decision. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's a conscious decision, and I think the reason for it is to stop or reduce the heat transfer that's going to go down onto the both the casing and the this feels like a plasticky bit up the top. But I can't be sure. At the end of the day, it is what it is. But most things that I've put on here will sit ever so slightly proud of the top of the mod, which is no bad thing, because this this kind of casing around the outside sits slightly above this anyway. So you know, no biggie. But that's a thing. On the bottom. Now, we've got the screen on the bottom, but we've also got this kind of edge that goes around the outside as well. And you can see that there is a little bit of a lip there. So that protects the screen, but at the same time is a little bit, I wouldn't really want to sort of scratch it on top of any expensive wooden tables, for instance. But for fear of this, especially when it's new. As I said, it kind of smooths out when it's after use, but when it's new, it's kind of quite angry. But there you go. Just around the outside, we've got the Cortex name. I think it looks swish as you like. You've got the USB charger down the bottom there. And I think, let me just check, when I plug in the USB, we have a light that flashes around the button. Now, the button is flush. You can see that that is a flush button with the unit, which takes some getting used to. If you're vaping while you're driving at night, for instance, you know, unless you've got just you're quite a touchy feely person, it can be a little bit of a bugger to find. Having said that, you know, I've not really had any major problems with it once I kind of got a vibe for where it roughly was. The fact that there's very little throw on it means that you can kind of cover that whole button with your thumb, and you'll still manage to press it just by applying a little bit of pressure to the thumbprint bit. Now then, the screen. The screen is, I have found this to be a little bit of a shit in at night. No, sorry, not at night, in sunlight. There we go, try that again. In sunlight, I've not been able to see that overly well. It's not the brightest screen, that's for sure. But you know, in normal kind of daylight inside the house and all that sort of stuff, there's not been any bother. And with the type of product that this is, you probably wouldn't be wanting to muck about with it too much anyway. So 3 clicks turns it on. 1, 2, 3. Innokin technology. Dun, dun. You can see at the top there I've got it in nickel mode. It's at 0 watts obviously, 410 Fahrenheit. It's telling me to check atomizer now because I just pressed fire without an atomizer on it. And it's got a puff count, or how long the last puff was at the bottom there. So let's pop a tank on there, shall we? No, this is the an ISub that I mentioned a little while ago that I have pre-filled with juice, and on this one I've got a titanium coil on here. So okay, we'll start that off there. In fact, this is quite, I didn't really think this all the way through. Right, now if I want to well, first of all, this is in nickel mode, so I've got titanium on at the moment, so I need to hold both the up and down button, hold both of those together, select coil. So you just scroll through using the up and down buttons. We've got Ni for nickel, W for watts, and Ti for titanium. So the fire button, there you go, we're in. Now then, I want to increase or decrease the temperature. So I need to keep my finger on one of the up or down buttons until it flashes, and then I can move it, and it moves in 5-degree increments. Okay, so that keeps things nice and simple from that perspective. There's no up and down of wattage. It figures the wattage out required to make it hit that temperature, and I must say it does so rather well. So here we go in titanium mode, 0.41 coil. There you go. It actively read the increase of resistance of the coil as it was firing, and there we go. So if I press up and down again, it tells me how many puffs I've had and the battery and all that sort of good stuff. If I choose wattage, you'll see in that mode it just changes the temperature to watts, and the same rules apply up and down as so. So I need to go back to titanium. That's what we've got in there, and there we go. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Cortex from Innokin. And I've got to say, and we'll go up top in a minute, but it does work really well. Once I kind of got over this vibe for the finish, I actually I've used it a lot in all modes, but I've used it a lot with a few of my RDAs as well. And little things like, if I pop this Shingen on there, for instance, there we go. Now this one does sit very proud. The Shingen has got a very sort of long 510 anyway, but generally I think that looks just really quite swish. That's quite kind of simplistic, you know, and I like simple. I'm not an intense kind of guy. But there we go. So what we'll do is we'll stick this tank back on top. We'll go up top. We'll vape on it. We'll chat about it. And I will let you know my thoughts on the Cortex and the ISub S. Thank you very much. All right then, ladies and gentlemen. So that was the up close with the Cortex with the ISub tank on it, and let's have a little look at vapor production. I've got this set at 410 Fahrenheit with the titanium coil in it at the moment. The air is fully open, and let's have a little toot. It's not bad. It's not bad. Now it's not the quietest. It's not the quietest tank in the world, but you know it's the air is going all over the place. Now, just for you people that like the extra air at the top, I'm going to have a little bit of air introduction at the drip tip as well. So, you know, it certainly cools the vape down and does what air after the coil does. But as for itself, if you turn it down kind of as far as it'll go, this one actually that I've put on doesn't have. Oh, yes, it does. I didn't think it had all the little thingies. Right, I've turned this down to 1 hole. And it's not quite a full kind of mouth to lung. It's like it's a very restricted lung, but it's not quite tight enough for a mouth to lung, in my opinion. But then again, I don't mouth to lung, so you know, I guess it depends what people fancy. All in all, full beans open. It's not a bad vape. Like I say, the ISub S is not the quietest, but it is certainly a favourite over the, was it the G? Was it the G that I looked at before? I honestly can't remember. I looked at one before, and I think it was the one that came with the, what did it come with? What did it come with? It came with something else. One of the Cool Fires, maybe. Was that a G? But this one, this S, and I've got, like I say, with this titanium coil in it, it's not a bad vape at all. Personally, I would like a little bit more. I'd like a little bit more air in there, just for the way I vape and for my personal style. But especially if this is your kind of next step up, if this is your first introduction into temp limiting, and it's your introduction into kind of a larger or higher wattage, then this is absolutely perfectly fine. And the flavour is not terrible, not by any stretch. Now, something else I've been doing is I have been using this to check out the temp mode. I have been using this with my own RDAs as well, just to see if you're not a massive fan of the tank, then what's the mod like in its own right. So let me just have a look. Just managed to royally knacker that wicking. Royally fucked that one. Royally fucked it. Now what I've got here is I've got my support, and I am putting, let's just pop some juice on here. Now what I do with the support is, one of my kind of preferred builds, if you like, is to use a 24 gauge NI 200, and I sit it just above the posts, which seems to work for me pretty well with this. It's an interesting little build, and yeah, it works nicely. So I've just the problem with stuff underneath is if you've just wicked an RDA, you've got to look at your bloody jobbies. Right, so nickel, let's choose nickel. And as I say, you don't choose the wattage. That comes with the temperature you're going on there. Now I've got this set on 410 degrees, where air is open, full beans on the top here. Let's have a little blast. And that is a nicely producing and working temp control. And I found this temp control to be pretty sweet. So vapor, it certainly produces it. The temp control does work, and all in all, I'm quite happy with this little mod. Like I say, the only two issues are the lack of wall charger. That would just be super. I know it's a pain in the ass when you got to do the 2 pins for the States and the European ones and all this, that, and the other. But and I guess not providing that means that they can just provide the same box and the same product to absolutely everybody the world around. But nonetheless, it would still be great if you had a 2 amp charger. However, I use my charger from my Samsung S6, and that seems to charge it up nice and quickly. Couple of hours, something like that. Let me just have a drink. Cheers. Can't be a cup of tea on a Sunday. Ooh. But there you go. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Cortex. It looks pretty cool. The other issue was just the finish. Because it takes some getting used to and it takes some wearing in, and it, even when it's smoother, it's still not. It doesn't feel like a glossy smooth. Obviously, it's a matte smooth, so it's up to you whether that'll put your teeth on edge or not. But all in all, I don't think it's too bad at all. The screen could do with being a little bit brighter. That's something I've just thought of. Now, I haven't seen if this is updatable from a software point of view yet. I haven't seen any updates come out with it. But seeing how Innokin have been rocking things recently, it may or may not be, I don't know. So that's something to keep your eyes peeled for. For the time being, though, it is what it is. And to be honest, it's a quick Google gives me prices from what Vape Club have got it at $64.99. Vampire Vape is $64.99. Vapor.co.uk is $78.99. And the biggest price I think I've seen from a Google point of view is UK e-cig store at $81.99. So, if you're looking around the £65 mark for this with a tank, if that's what floats your boat, I think that's pretty sweet. I'm just double checking that is with the tank. Oh, you've got to enter your date of birth. You've got to enter your date of birth. 1974. I know, old bastard. Innokin Cortex ISub S temperature control starter kit, Vampire Vape, $64.99. There you go, bosh. Now, I'm not saying you should go to Vampire Vape. I haven't bought anything from them for a while, but at that price, there you go. So that's what you've got to deal with these two little puppies, ladies and gents. As I say, I think it's pretty sweet. Innokin seem to just be getting their shit together, and things are just working, and they're working well right now. Change this back to thing there. Hold on. Titanium. There we go. Titanium. Not bad. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Dean the Vaping Biker. This has been the Cortex with the ISub S. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe, check out some of my other videos, and let me know your thoughts. But for the rest of today, I am going to go and do a couple more reviews, but you lot make sure you have it larger! It's come to an end. I feel an obligation to start again.